Hello and welcome to the Gaggle What We Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, on Friday, we discussed the situation in Romania, where we had this presidential election last Sunday, which was won by somebody that everybody in NATO land, found absolutely unacceptable, and therefore they started scrambling around trying to find some reason as to how this could have happened. Unable to find anything, mumbled Russia, of course, TikTok, cyber attacks, they just flounder around the usual. They decided, well, we're just going to annul it altogether. I mean, basically, what do you do with an election that doesn't go your way? You just cancel it, and that's it, as if it didn't happen. So, the Romanian Constitutional Court is scheduled on Monday to rule on whether it should simply annul the election. They've delayed this ruling because they can't come up with a legal reason. I mean,
Well, isn't it really interesting, George, is that um, the Europeans, the European Union is just getting ahead of the shark. They've already decided that, they're not leaving it to the mere Romanians to take care of it. Okay. I mean, just the arrogance of
right,
these people.
right,
Okay.
yes,
So the Constitutional Court in Bucharest, you're on notice. Okay. You're on notice.
that's right.
Just the
but
arrogance of these people.
but
It's
that's
extraordinary.
right. It's arrogant. But at the same time, you tell them to the Romanian Constitutional Court, and they say, "Hey, can you provide us with a legal reason?" I mean, you still have to come up with a reason why you're going to annul this election. And I think they're having difficulties because they just can't come up with a reason. I mean, at least you have to say something. I mean,
And saying you're triggered isn't a good enough reason.
that's right. I mean, like in the United States, well, let's take Trump off the ballot. Why should we take him off the ballot? Well, he led an insurrection. Yeah, but you haven't made any kind of legal determination. Where's the legal determination? Well, we don't have to make any stinking legal determination. We can just simply say he led an insurrection, therefore he should be thrown off the ballot. That didn't work. I mean, the Supreme Court 9-0 said, no, you can't do that. That's ridiculous. So, but they're trying to do something like this in Romania. But in the meantime, in Georgia, where we had that election in October, which we covered quite extensively, and which the Georgian Dream Party won quite convincingly. They got 54% of the vote. Again, EU screamed fraud, unable really to come up with any evidence of fraud. And then you had the Georgian president of the French woman who poses as Georgian president, whose name is Salome Zourabichvili. Zourabichvili.
Only Georgian in name.
Exactly. So, who was parachuted in as a Georgian president some years ago, and so she's been leading the protest. First of all, she claimed that it was Russia. Russia was involved. Again, didn't come up with any evidence to show how Russia had supposedly stole the election, but nonetheless, she has insisted that that election was stolen and that there was no legitimacy to the parliament that had been elected. It just had no legitimacy. Now, in the meantime, as while the EU has been applying all this pressure against Georgia, essentially to cancel that election, the Georgian government says, you know what, we're kind of tired of all these EU accession talks because all that happens in these talks is that the EU uses them in order to apply pressure against us. And so therefore we're going to put these cancel, we're going to postpone the talks for about 3 or 4 years. This caused huge indignation in Brussels and in Washington, which is very strange because the Europeans had already said we're putting the talks on hold. I mean, quite why this was a huge sensation. I mean, they've already said we're putting these talks on hold after that election. So apparently the Europeans can say we're putting these accession talks on hold, but Georgians are not allowed to say we're putting these accession talks on hold. And the United States said, we're putting on hold our strategic partnership with Georgia. So I'm sure Georgians are weeping that, oh no, the strategic partnership with the United States is going
Thomas,
to happen.
Thomas, you're putting it on hold. Well, then we have the Georgian president said that
Right, exactly. Well, that's the next part because now we have these massive demonstrations. They're trying to do the Maidan, go through the Maidan because, of course, that's what triggered the Maidan protest was when Viktor Yanukovych said, I'm not going to sign for the time being anyway, I'm not going to sign this EU association agreement unless suddenly all these demonstrations came out. And so the moment the Georgian government said, okay, we're putting these accession talks on hold, out came Rent-A-Mob and with using violence. Now, the Rent-A-Mob was also joined by Salome Zourabichvili, the president. She was out there demonstrating, which again is very strange for a president to be out protesting on the streets, demonstrations that essentially are violent against her government,
democratically
a
elected government.
democratically government. And as she said, I'm not going anywhere. She's supposed to, her term in office is supposed to come to an end because she's actually voted on by the parliament. So she doesn't actually, run for direct vote of the people. She's actually selected by the parliament. And she said, I'm not leaving because this is not a legitimate parliament, and therefore I am staying, and I will continue to be the president.
But she will be an illegitimate and illegal president, just as she claims the parliament is.
Exactly. So this parliament is illegitimate, and therefore they have no right to remove me from office, which something that she's just simply invented out of whole cloth. She hasn't presented the slightest evidence that this is an illegitimate parliament. She's just simply made this claim, and she's got no evidence to support her claim.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that they did take some random recounts of some of the polling stations and stuff like that. I think that was agreed to, but I guess because it didn't go their way, we haven't heard anything about it since. Okay. No,
Yes.
they're going to use undemocratic means in the name of democracy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's turning everything into a mockery here.
Right.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because George and I have spent it, many, many hours, but this is all with Romania. You got to keep Romania in check. We mentioned this before. The U.S. is it completed its largest military base in Europe? I think it's not finished yet, but it will be the
Mm-hmm.
largest military.
That's right.
But, Romania is a hub here
Right.
because whatever happens in Ukraine, well, then it's not going to be over, everyone.
Right.
George and I are going to be talking about Ukraine for a very, very long
Right.
time,
Right.
irrespective of what Mr. Trump does or doesn't do. Okay. Georgia, it's the goal is NATO membership. This
Yep.
is all
Yep.
they're going through the process here. So that legitimizes the expansion in the minds of NATO land of their alliance, okay? And nothing is going to get in the way.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I mean, they'll do whatever they sanction the Georgian Dream Party, put bank fair against them, lawfare against them.
Right.
They're going to do everything.
Right.
George and I predicted this.
Right.
We
Yes.
didn't know the timeline, we didn't know the velocity of it, but it's all within the parameters that we
I think
predicted.
we got this one pretty accurately. We said
Yeah,
this election because we knew this election's coming up late October, and you said they are going to fight like tooth and nail to secure that election. They're not going to just simply allow Georgia to vote as it wants. So they're applying serious pressure, and again, there's money involved. I mean, they're already applying
huge
sanctions.
investment involved. They've been doing this for a long time.
Exactly. And it's very, very interesting because Georgia hasn't done anything wrong. I mean, that's the thing, like, oh, we got to sanction, whatever. You still haven't come up with, well, what's Georgia done that deserves it? And this is why you've got this essential kind of a terror block. It's a block that applies terror. It applies the financial pressure, economic pressure, political, military pressure against tiny countries, and Georgia is a tiny country because it refuses to play ball. And what you say, Viktor Orban kind of flew in 2 days ago to present, Georgia with a kind of, to buck up and
Attaboy,
face down
attaboy.
NATO. But he's the only one. And he's, of course, he's already been attacked by the European Parliament. How dare Viktor Orban go to Georgia, which itself is very strange. European Parliament. I mean, they are true; they are voted on, but nobody cares about the elections of the European Parliament. They're just meaningless elections. So they're nobody to start telling anybody, "Hey, how dare you do this?" So. It's kind of a strange, this Zourabichvili, she's following the lead of Zelensky, who also says, "Well, I'm president. Your term in office has expired, but I'm president." So she says, "Oh, that's it. I'm staying put." I'm assuming that they have the means at hand to remove her physically from her office. I mean, just say, "Well, I'm staying in the office." They say, "No." I mean, doubtless they'll have camera shot. Oh, this elderly woman being manhandled by Georgian police, but that's all they can do. They have to physically remove her from the building.
Just no, you don't. Okay, just turn off the electricity, bolt the bathroom door, drain the bar. She'll be out. Okay, come on. Okay. They're not going to do that. No, you know why they're not going to do it, George? Because they've learned about the forced regime change playbook. Okay. They're not going to give these people a public relations victory with sloppy manhandling of an old French woman.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Deny her, I don't know, whatever her French menu is. That'll incentivize her. No, they're not going to do that. There's not going to be
I think you're right. That's it. They
there's not going to be another
cut off the
Maidan.
heating. There's no heating in the
Yeah, turn
building.
off the heating. It's
Yeah,
cold.
turn off the heating. Lock the bathroom door. And then say, yeah, okay, enjoy yourself. It's cold alone in this empty building, unable to use the bathroom.
Do French people eat cold soup?
They're not much into cold soups. They're more into the hot soups. Like French onion soup and so on. No.
Okay, their hypocrisy is just shown to be bare. Okay, I saw Al Jazeera loves this story, and have all the Georgian teenagers crying in the street. We want to be part of Europe, and they have their signs in English. Why? Why are there signs in English? Oh, for the cameras, of
Exactly.
course. Okay,
Exactly.
I mean
Exactly.
it's pretty thin gruel at this point. Okay, and on a more serious note here, people of Moldova and Georgia, they're small, poor countries, okay? They saw what's going on in Ukraine and they don't want that. They
Right.
do not want that,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Because they've seen the Western politicians, we're going to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. Well, you can put in Moldovan, you can put in
Right.
Georgian,
Right.
and a lot of
No,
people that left Ukraine have ended up in many cases in Georgia and in
right.
Moldova.
It's very interesting that in Moldova, where they managed to steal that election, I mean, they put in a lot of effort, and they managed to
Pretty
steal it.
ingenious way of stealing it. You got
Well,
to admit.
that's right. It wasn't very convincing. They just,
It was ingenious, but it wasn't convincing.
no. Georgia. I mean, I think the Georgians have been cracking down on all the NGOs and the foreign interventions and so on. They weren't able to pull that off, and that's why I think that's the difference. That why they've kept Maya Sandu in power. They haven't succeeded in Georgia. I think the Georgians have been very, very shrewd. They seem to be very alert to the intervention of the NGOs, and of course, there's been this regular procession of European politicians, going there night after night, protesting outside Parliament, and so the Georgians have been, so far anyway, they've held their ground. They held their ground on the foreign agents law. They held their ground on the LGBTQ plus law, and I think they're going to hold their ground on the election. They're going to hold their ground on the halt to the EU accession talks. They're going to apply pressure, but I think because of the experience of Maidan, and they've explicitly said we're not going to have another Maidan here, that it's going to be hard for the West to get their way in Georgia.
And if you really want to put it into context, particularly like an American one, the Georgian dream is like, let's make Georgia great again. That's what they want. Okay.
Right.
And the war in August 2008, it stings to this day. And Georgia Dream has been saying, we need people to be held accountable for what
Right.
happened. Doesn't make us pro-Russian because there's no pro-Russian forces in Georgia at all. Zero. Okay. Now, there are individuals that have extensive business relations with Russia. Yes. Okay.
Right.
I mean, almost, I may be exaggerating here, but anyone that is very wealthy in Georgia has made their money in Russia, okay, through import, export, all these kinds of things, okay. Georgia is just too small, doesn't have natural resources
Right.
except for a wonderful group of people. Georgians are great to be around, okay? They're very warm, they like to eat, they like to laugh, they like their wines. It's great and it's scenic, it's really beautiful.
Right.
But it's good real estate for a NATO base.
That's right. That's exactly it. It's a strategic location. It's on the east of the Black Sea. That's, NATO wants to turn the Black Sea into a NATO lake. It had that, they've already turned the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake. They want to turn this
You
into
had
a NATO
Poland's
lake as
Tusk
well.
saying this in the current news cycle. Tusk coming out saying, here's a Polish politician telling the littoral states of the Black Sea that they have to start patrolling it. I mean, it's just you can't make this stuff up. What are the Poles? You're already hip deep in the Baltic. Okay, why don't
Right.
you leave
That's right.
the Black Sea alone?
That,
But
that,
no,
that's right. So that's why just NATO is going to, and I think they've had a setback, but they're going to keep pressing. And I think that's really the lesson of the day is NATO will just keep pressing. They get pushed back, then they come back to
George,
push.
it's not impossible because we're dealing with these fanatics. They might send in peacekeepers
Yeah,
in Georgia.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I'm not joking.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's too much civil strife. It's a very unstable situation.
Right. No, that's right. And now we have these nightly protests outside Parliament. Of course, they are violent because the people who come out to these protests, they're there in order to cause violence. So, and the media reported a fire broke out in the Georgian Parliament. Wow, when the hell did a fire break out in the Georgian Parliament? Could it
It,
be the people were throwing Molotov cocktails and caused the fire?
the situation is so unstable that fire spontaneously,
Spontaneous.
spontaneously, it's an act of God. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah,
black swan event. Fire suddenly
funny
appearing.
breakout. Yes. Yeah. They reported that. I remember at the time in 2014 with the fire in Odessa in the
Union
trade
building.
union building, a fire broke out. A fire broke out and some people died. It just broke out. Boom. And so again, the same thing, and of course, the United States and the EU have condemned the Georgian police for using violence against peaceful protesters. They're peaceful. You see the footage. These people are anything but peaceful. But these are peaceful protesters, and these violent thugs are applying force against them. I mean, the lying is so shameful. The propaganda is so disgusting that almost unbelievable. As it was in the case of Ukraine with and that guy was it the one who took part in Odessa? I think Goncharenko, who's a member of the Ukrainian parliament. He's there. The footage is there. He was there at outside the fire at in Odessa, and he comes on CNN talking about Russia and Ukraine. The guy is a mass murderer, and he's there on CNN. No one ever brings up the fact that he took part in this in this excruciating torture and death.
George has already said it. They're not going to give up on this. This has been a project ever since they had their tools, Saakashvili, and too much money is sloshing around. There are too many. I mean, I can't imagine how they manage the office space of NGOs in Tbilisi. Okay, I mean, it certainly keeps the posh cafes going, that's for sure, and the restaurants.
Right.
But this is an epic battle. It really is. I really admire the Georgians that are saying, no, no Maidan, no Ukraine, no civil war. We we already went toe to toe, nudged by the
Yeah.
Rice to go into South Ossetia. No, we're not doing that again. No way. You know why? Because if you come from a big country, well, you come from France, you come from the US, the UK, you never think about the possibility of your country disappearing. You never think that way. Small countries do,
Yeah.
and small countries do disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay?
yeah.
Look at the Armenian genocide. Yeah, you can disappear.
You can disappear very quickly. Yeah, no question. Yeah. With your neighbors can step in helpfully and take chunks of your territory, and that's it. And then you're no more. So this guy, this Georgian prime minister, this Kobakidze, if I'm pronouncing him correctly, he's now becoming the kind of the most hated man on the Eurasian continent. He's taken over
Yeah, but
from Viktor Orban. Um,
but this guy, he's got a lot of things going for him. He's young, he's photogenic,
yeah,
he seems like a gentleman, but he's firm. And
yes,
I'll tell you, in this part of the world where masculinity is alive and well and healthy, he seems very masculine as
yeah,
well, very forceful.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah, yeah.
All righty. You can count on the fact that George and I got to watch this one. We all have been, and we're going to continue watching it very closely because is an epic battle, and it shows the side that always talks about values. Well, when push comes to shove, Molotov cocktail bombs and pipes and sticks, that's what they're really about.
that's
That's what they're all about.
that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All
Mostly
righty.
peaceful. Those are mostly
Yeah, I
peaceful.
mean, during the Black Lives Matter riots, Wendy's suddenly burned.
So,
Just
yeah,
suddenly.
spontaneous combustion. Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody, this is The Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. We're doing a series of podcasts right now. We're going to do a live stream tomorrow, and George is back in the saddle again on Solo Tuesday.
Exactly. 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Please join us. Come with comments and questions. And we want to we like answering questions. We enjoy answering them. So please, if you have homework assignment, think of some good questions for us to answer. We look forward to it. So that's 10 a.m. Eastern time. And then I do my solo live stream 3 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So please join us. And now you got to think about these ferocious hounds who are really saying, we're doing all the work and we don't get paid. Unremunerated. And they say that's not a successful business model, as they put it. So if you have a few bob in your pocket and a few bob stashed away somewhere, please whip them out into the tip jar. That's the way they like it. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and we can appease these hounds. We need to appease them because they're just not in a good mood. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.